Welcome to the onboarding tutorial for AquaTwin Water. What I'm going to cover today are some essentials and best practices for setting up an AquaTwin Water project. For this video, there is also a sample ArcGIS Pro project and PDF so you can follow along and save for reference material in the future. So what we're going to start with are some suggested settings. So first of all, we do recommend turning off the ArcGIS Pro Auto Backup option. If you go into the top left corner of your screen and click on Projects, Options, General, Project Recovery, and just make sure that you have this unchecked. This can help with file corruption, potential for file corruption. So now if I come back here, the next one I do want to check is if you go to this digital twin section where in the AquaTwin ribbon, you can click the digital twin options and open up this dialog box. This should already be default checked, but make sure you have the auto map redraw on scenario switching checked as well. What this does is essentially refresh the map every time you switch scenarios, just making sure you're having always showing the most up-to-date data in the map. So the next thing we're going to do is set our spatial reference, which is what you would do for any ArcGIS Pro project before you start anything, whether that be the model or just your typical GIS project. So if I go to my contents pane and right click on the map and go to properties, you can go to the coordinate systems tab, and depending on where your project is located, your coordinate system is going to be different. If you're following along for this project, we're going to go to the projected coordinate systems, state plane. Let's do the NAD 1983 US feet, and we're going to scroll down and do the Illinois East right here, and just go ahead and click OK. And you can see now the spatial reference has been set. So now what we're going to do in this sample project, now that we have the coordinate system set, is we're going to import an existing EPANet INP file into the software. So if you're in this AquaTwin ribbon, go ahead and click on the Twin Builder. The Twin Builder is where you can import an existing EPANet INP file on the water side, and if you're doing a sewer project, it would be an EPA swim file. And so where this project was located and where you unzipped it to open up this ArcGIS Pro project, if you go to this AquaTwin Water onboarding file folder, you'll see there's going to be a model file folder located in here as well. And if you go into here, you're going to see there's a base.inp file. So go ahead and click on that, click on open, click on next. Since we already set the spatial reference to the map, we'll just use active map, and you can see the coordinate system name down here. Click on next again. And then what it's going to do is it's going to import that model in there for you. It's going to give you a nice little summary of what all was imported. You can click on finish. And for the sake of this project in this example, go ahead and click on the run button up at the top as well, so you can see now that this run was successful. In addition to the AquaTwin ribbon at the top of the screen, AquaTwin Water will be using 3 other main tabs, and that's going to be this Data Explorer, Asset Properties, and Message tab, and you can open those in the top right of this ribbon just kind of by clicking on them. These are just ArcGIS Pro tabs, so you see you can move these around however you want. I typically kind of have them docked on the side of the screen just like this though. So the first tab, the Asset Properties on the right hand side of my screen, you see it's going to have an Asset tab and a Digital Twin tab. The Digital Twin tab, this is looking at the hydraulic model input and output data for an individual asset. And to select the individual asset, you'll use this selection arrow up here in the top left of this Asset Properties window. So I can come in here and select a pipe, a pump, a junction, and it's always going to show me all of the input data as well as the output data for that individual asset. Now the Asset tab for the individual asset, this is just looking at the information tabs or the information fields associated with that asset. These are kind of pre-populated, but you can add to these, delete these. It's just like editing the feature classes attribute table, which I'll show in a few minutes. Now the Message tab, which is located here at the bottom of my screen, this is just going to show any general messages the software gives, such as error messages, the GIS network cleanup tools, any of the model building tools, any kind of general messages will always show up in here. In the verification tab, this is specific to the GIS network cleanup tools. If you want to search for pipe splits, it'll tell you exactly which pipes need to be split, and kind of let you double click on them and zoom to them as well. On the left side of my screen, this is the Data Explorer. This is more of a bigger picture modeling stuff, and it's going to have four main tabs associated with it. First of all, in the bottom left screen, you can see I'm going to be in the Asset tab. This is more so for our asset management software. So if you're just using this for AquaTwin Water, you're not going to be inside of this tab at all. The Digital Twin tab, this is going to be mostly big picture modeling things, such as the attribute tables for your hydraulic model, storing patterns, curves, controls, general run options, fire flow analysis, and a few other modules specific to AquaTwin Water. The selection tab, this is where you're going to have your saved selections, saved queries, graphs, and reports. Essentially, any selection you make inside of ArcGIS, you can save it to refer back to. So I'll quickly make that selection, call this one test, clear this selection, and then if I double click on save selection, it makes that same exact selection in my map. Saved queries, you can build a query by building a query can also make selections in the map. So for the data sources, the one that you'll be using mostly would be the digital twin. That's going to be like hydraulic model input or output data. The attribute, that's going to be for the information fields associated with the asset. Risk inspection, remaining useful life, that's only for AquaTwin asset. And then you can even use external layers and tables in your map for queries as well. And then the last tab down here is going to be the Tools tab. These are just going to be all of the model building tools and GIS network cleanup tools. And these are all going to be available in the online help guide to go through step by step how to use them. So another kind of key thing to remember is that there's two types of selections that you'll be using. The GIS selection, this is just the ArcGIS Pro selection. In the top left of this Data Explorer, this is just a selection shortcut where you can manually come in there and make the selection. If I come to like the map and use the GIS selection, this works the same exact way. But it's important to note that all of your tools are going to be operating on these selections. Any kind of global editing will be on these selections. So if you're ever looking at more than one asset, you always use a GIS selection. And then again, this asset properties selection is only controlling this asset properties window. And so you need to click on this first and then select in the map. This selection arrow is also located up here in the AquaTwin ribbon, kind of where my cursor is right now. So now that we have a model up and running, I do want to quickly go over the file structure for an AquaTwin water project. So if you open up your file explorer, you can go to where you opened that initial ArcGIS Pro project file, which you can see right here. That's kind of a .aprx file. A typical ArcGIS Pro file structure would have that aprx file, a model geodatabase, depending on that project name, and then a few other random folders. Now, the model files folder, that's something that I added, and that's where we got that base.imp file, so that typically would not be in there. The only extra thing that is added for an AquaTwin water project is going to be this project name .water folder that's already inside of your ArcGIS Pro file structure. Inside of this folder, what you'll notice is that there's going to be a base.imp file, some output files. If you have different model scenarios, each model scenario will have its own separate folder with input files and output files as well. But what you'll notice is when I imported that EPANet IMP file and I built that hydraulic model in my map, you can see the geometry in there. And that's what's on the left side of my screen. So you see a junction, tank, reservoir, pump, valve, pipe. Those are EPANet AquaTwin model or AquaTwin water assets. That is going to be stored in this model geodatabase that is in that .water folder inside of your ArcGIS Pro project file structure. So again, this is automatically loaded in here. You don't have to manually add this to your map, but this is where that data is located. So a few more things about these feature classes in my contents pane, and that's kind of what you see in the map. If I'm looking at my asset properties window on the right side of my screen, and if you want to open that, you can click on this asset properties button. If you use this selection arrow and select, let's say, a pipe, okay? Down here, you'll see there's a digital twin tab and an asset tab. If you go ahead and click on the asset tab, what you see here are information fields. So it's important to note that the feature classes themselves, the model feature classes, it stores the geometry and it stores the information fields. So for a pipe, if I right click on this pipe and go to the feature classes attribute table, everything inside of here are these information fields, or what you're seeing in this asset tab. These are kind of pre-populated. You can manually edit these, delete these, add different fields if you want to, but all the editing of the information fields needs to be inside of this feature class itself. Now you can manually use the AquaTwin tools to edit the geometry. For instance, if you want to, add a node, move a node, move a pipe, delete stuff, you'll want to use the AquaTwin editing tools to do all of that. If you want to edit the geometry of any of these feature classes, so for instance, if I want to use some of the ArcGIS editing tools, so let's make a selection of this pipe, go to edit. You see there's all kinds of ArcGIS Pro editing tools. You can use these on the AquaTwin feature classes, but what you have to do after you edit those, if you go to the Tools tab, you click on Update Geometry Data from Map. And that will just kind of update the model geodatabase to show the edits that you made. So any simple editing, use the AquaTwin editing tools. If you're ever deleting or adding, always use the delete selection, add node, add pipe. And if you want to edit the information fields, always do it just by editing the feature classes attribute table itself. When it comes to versioning your projects or maybe sending the projects to a client or saving it somewhere else on your server, you have a few different options for how you do this. First of all, you can do a save project as to create a whole new ArcGIS Pro project file. The only thing that will remain consistent when you do that is going to be this project geodatabase. So like let's say I created a new project called, AquaTwin water test. All of these files would be new based on that new project file other than the project geodatabase. And none of your model data will be stored in that project geodatabase. So if you do a save as, it's going to create a new .water folder as well, which is what you want. If it comes to sending an EPA net file to somebody else, remember inside of this .water folder, you have a base.imp file, and every single new scenario that you create will also have an IMP file. So if you just want to send that model file, you can always come in here and copy this or paste it somewhere else if you want to. If you want to zip up the project, in the Tools tab, there's a Package Project tool. What this allows you to do is essentially create a zip file of all of the project files associated with AquaTwin Water. So if you have a bunch of different, just GIS files in this map, none of that will get zipped up. It's only the files that will be associated with, your AquaTwin Water project. So you can use any of these different ways to move projects around or you send them to other people. The last thing I want to cover is where you can get some more information to learn about AquaTwin Water and how to use it. And that's going to be housed in our technical support website. And so the link for this is going to be inside of that document that you're following along with. This is going to have, all the installation guides, updating, tutorials, videos, all of that will be located here on this website. And it's going to be kind of constantly updated. And this is always going to be the best source, of information for learning more about the product. In addition, you can always reach out to our support team to request any kind of additional training or support calls. We're always available to do that via Teams as well. And then finally, the Download Center, which I'll also give a link for this inside of that document. This is where you will always find the latest version of the software. And so not only that, you could see the actual date of the latest release, and then you'll also see the version change log. So every single change that's made between versions will be located on this website. There's also going to be a document inside of this technical support website that shows you how to update the software. But essentially all it is you have to uninstall AquaTwin Water from your machine and then reinstall it back on there. And that's all you have to do to update the software.